Good evening. Before we begin our journey tonight, take a moment to simply be. Allow the physical world around you to fade into the background. Let the weight of your day, the heavy coat of responsibilities and thoughts you have carried for so many hours, simply drop away from your shoulders. Feel it slide off, leaving you lighter. Let your shoulders fall away from your ears, sinking down toward the mattress. Let your jaw unclench, releasing the tension held in the hinges of your face. Smooth out the space between your eyebrows. There is nothing you need to do right now. There is no problem you need to solve, no question you need to answer, and nowhere you need to be. You have arrived at a destination of perfect, suspended stillness. This is a sanctuary where time moves slower, where the ticking of the clock softens into a rhythmic lullaby, and where the past and the present drift together like smoke on a gentle evening breeze. Tonight, we are going to let our minds wander. We are going to travel back across the expanse of years, drifting back through the corridors of time, across the miles, to a landscape of endless sky and open earth. Before we lock the doors against the storm and settle in for the long night ahead, take a moment to make yourself comfortable. Gently tap the like button. Think of it as adding a log to our fire, keeping this history alive. And if you are new here, subscribe to join our circle of time travelers. I always wonder where my fellow survivors are listening from tonight. Check your clock right now. Tell me in the comments, what time is it where you are? And is it storming outside your window? I read every story you share. Now, close your eyes. Let the darkness behind your eyelids become a canvas, wide and blank, waiting to be painted. We are drifting to the American frontier. We are going to the Dakota Territory. The numbers on the calendar are turning back. The date is January 12th, 1888. It is morning. Visualize yourself standing there. You are standing on the weathered wooden threshold of a small schoolhouse. It is a humble structure, built of rough-hewn timber, sitting all alone on the vast rolling prairie. It looks like a tiny ship anchored in a boundless sea of dormant yellow grass. Take a moment to look at the horizon. The world around you stretches out in every single direction, north, south, east, west, unbroken and infinite. It is a perfect circle of Earth meeting the pale, wide dome of the sky. The silence here is profound. It is not an empty silence, but a heavy, peaceful stillness, broken only by the whisper of the wind moving through miles of dry prairie grass. But as you stand there, leaning against the doorframe, you realize that something is different today. Something is strange. It is the middle of January in the Dakotas. By all rights, this world should be locked in the unforgiving iron grip of a deep winter. The ground beneath your boots should be hard as granite, frozen solid to the core. The air should be sharp and crystalline, biting your exposed skin like invisible teeth. Your breath should hang in thick, white clouds before your face, freezing the moment it leaves your lips. But today is different. Today, the air feels like silk against your cheek. It is a phenomenon the old-timers and the farmers call the January thaw. It is a rare, beautiful trick of the atmosphere. A massive warm front has swept up from the south, pushing back the heavy Arctic chill that usually rules this land. It has wrapped the entire prairie in a blanket of unexpected, gentle warmth. The temperature has risen rapidly, defying the season. It feels like a spring morning in May. You can smell it, the scent of damp earth beginning to soften, the smell of the wooden shingles on the roof heating up under the sun. The snow that might have been hiding in the shadows is melting, dripping slowly from the eaves with a rhythmic, hypnotic tap, tap, tap. The sun is not a cold, distant white disk today. It is golden. It feels buttery and warm on your face. You might even feel the urge to unbutton your coat, to let this impossible, gentle breeze touch your neck. It is a lull, a pause in the year, a moment of perfect, impossible comfort in the middle of the harsh winter. It feels like the earth itself has taken a deep, relaxed breath, exhaling the cold and inhaling this soft southern air. Shift your attention now to where you are standing. You lean your shoulder gently against the rough-hewn wood of the doorframe. It feels solid and sturdy against your side. You can feel the texture of the timber through the fabric of your shirt sleeves, the ridges of the grain, the small imperfections of the bark, the history of the tree itself. The wood is not cold. It is warm to the touch, deeply soaked in the morning sunlight. It radiates a gentle, stored heat that seeps into your shoulder, relaxing the muscles there. Slowly, you tilt your face up toward the sky. The sun is not a cold, distant coin today. It is a radiant, golden fire, hanging low and large in the heavens. It presses against your closed eyelids, a comforting, heavy weight. You can see the glow of it even with your eyes shut, a warm, orange-gold luminescence that washes over your vision. It warms your cheeks, your forehead, the bridge of your nose. It feels like May. It feels like a promise that the long, hard winter is finally over and that the earth is gentle again. Listen. Listen closely to the world around you. It is speaking to you. It is speaking in the language of melting. Above your head, along the edge of the cedar roof, the snow is surrendering to the sun. Drip, drip, drip. Focus your entire mind on that sound. It is a slow, hypnotic rhythm, steady as a heartbeat. Visualize it happening in slow motion. A single droplet of water forms on the rough edge of a cedar shingle. It gathers there, swelling slowly. It catches the golden sunlight, turning into a tiny, perfect prism of diamond light, holding the reflection of the entire prairie within its curve. It grows heavy, heavier still, stretching down toward the earth, trembling against the wood until the surface tension can hold on no longer. It lets go. Plip. It falls through the warm air and lands in a small puddle near the toe of your leather boot. Watch the ripples. See them spread out across the dark, muddy water. Perfect concentric circles widening, widening, expanding until they vanish into the edges of the earth. Then, silence. And then, another droplet begins to form. It swells. It stretches, it falls. Drip, drip, drip. The air around you smells incredible. It does not smell of the metallic, sharp scent of snow or ice. It smells of damp, waking earth. It smells of the prairie grass, wet and golden, thawing after months of being frozen under the drifts. It smells of the pine resin seeping slowly from the heated planks of the schoolhouse walls, a sticky, sweet aroma released by the mid-morning sun. It is a rich, loamy scent, the ancient, musky scent of life stirring deep beneath the mud. You take a deep, slow breath, filling your lungs with this impossible spring air. It tastes sweet on your tongue. It tastes soft, lacking all the sharpness of winter. Behind you, inside the schoolhouse, The room is silent and perfectly still. You turn your head slightly, just enough to look over your shoulder into the room. It is a peaceful scene. Dust motes dance in the angled shafts of sunlight that cut through the glass windows. They swirl in slow motion, floating and drifting like tiny galaxies in the quiet air. In the corner, the pot-bellied stove sits cold and black. For the first time in months, you did not need to light it this morning. The iron is cool, the wood box is full, the logs resting undisturbed. The absence of the fire's roar adds to the stillness, a testament to this strange, beautiful day where the world feels safe, warm, and suspended in time. Turn your attention briefly to the room behind you, peering through the open door into the shadows of the schoolhouse. The air inside has a distinct, nostalgic personality. It smells of chalk dust, a dry mineral scent that seems to hang suspended in the stillness, coating the back of your throat with a faint, powdery dryness. It smells of old paper, of pages turned thousands of times, releasing that sweet vanilla aroma of aging books. It smells of dark ink in glass wells, and of the slate boards stacked neatly on the wooden desks, their surfaces cool and smooth like river stones. It is a space of perfect order. It is a space of quiet expectation, a room holding its breath, waiting for the bell to ring. But right now, in this suspended moment, the life is not inside these walls. The life has escaped. The life is out here, vibrant and moving in the yard. Look out at the field before you. Let your eyes drift over the scene. The children are playing. There are 12 of them in total. They have spilled out of the schoolhouse door like marbles tipping from a jar, rolling and scattering across the ground, unable to resist the siren song of this impossible warm weather. They are running through the slush, their heavy leather boots splashing in the melting snow, creating a rhythm of splash, squelch, splash that underpins their movement. And look closely at them. Look at what they have left behind. They have shed their coats. Usually they are bundled shapeless against the wind, but now the heavy wool coats, the hand-stitched quilts made by mothers and grandmothers, the thick, scratchy knitted scarves, they all lie in a chaotic, colorful heap on the porch railing near you. They sit there, abandoned, a pile of winter armor that is no longer needed. The heavy weight of the season has been cast aside. The children are running in their shirt sleeves and their dresses. You can see the fabric of their clothes fluttering lightly in the breeze. Their cheeks are flushed, a deep, healthy rose color, not with the biting sting of the frost, but with the radiant heat of the game and the warmth of the sun. Focus on a little girl in a faded blue dress. She is chasing a boy near the split-rail fence. Watch her movement, light, unencumbered, joyful. Their laughter drifts toward you on the gentle southern breeze. It is a pure, bright sound, like the ringing of small silver bells. It rings out clearly across the vast emptiness of the plains, rising up into that endless blue sky, the only sound for miles around. They are calling to each other, their voices weaving together into a tapestry of delight. Over here! You're it! They are playing tag, their feet slipping playfully in the mud. They are playing hide and seek, ducking behind the corners of the building, pressing their backs against the warm wood, giggling as they wait to be found. They are shouting with the sheer giddy disbelief of being warm in the middle of January. It feels like a miracle to them. They stop every now and then to scoop up handfuls of the wet, heavy snow. It is packing snow, perfect and dense. They mold it into soft snowballs, but they don't throw them hard. They toss them gently. And because the day is so warm, the snowballs disintegrate into soft powder the moment they hit a shoulder or a back. You watch them, leaning against the doorframe, feeling like a custodian of this small, happy flock. You feel a profound sense of peace settle deep in your chest, expanding with every breath you take. It is hard to worry, hard to hold on to tension on a day like this. The winter has been so long. It has been so hard. The blizzards of December were cruel, howling monsters that shook the walls. But today it feels as if the prairie has decided to be kind. It feels as if the earth has forgiven the cold. It feels as if the worst is truly behind you and only light lies ahead. Slowly, deliberately, you decide to leave the shelter of the porch. You place one foot on the bottom step and then the other, lowering yourself down to the level of the prairie. You step off the wood and onto the ground. Your boots sink slightly into the softening earth. It is a yielding sensation, a soft surrender of the soil. The ground, usually as hard as iron in this month, accepts your weight. Listen to the sound of your own footsteps. Squish, step, squish, step. The mud makes a thick, wet, squelching sound. It is the sound of the thaw. It is the sound of the earth waking up, drinking in the melting snow, turning soft and pliable. You walk a few slow, leisurely paces out into the center of the yard. You pause there, letting your arms hang loose at your sides. The sun beats down on your back. It is a tangible weight, heavy and comforting. You can feel the heat soaking through the fabric of your shirt, pressing against your shoulder blades, warming the skin beneath. It seeps into your muscles, loosening the knots of winter tension. You reach down and unbutton your cuffs. Slowly, methodically, you roll up your sleeves, one fold, then another, until your forearms are bare. The air touches your skin, and it is not cold, it is warm. It is almost too warm. There is a strange, feverish intensity to the heat, a dreamlike quality that makes the edges of your vision feel soft and hazy. You lower your gaze, looking down at the ground near your boots. The snow is receding. It is pulling back like a tide, revealing the earth beneath. You see patches of brown, dormant grass, pressed flat by months of heavy drifts, now exposed to the sun for the first time. They look like islands emerging from a white sea. Watch the water. Tiny, intricate rivulets of meltwater are carving paths through the dirt. They wind and snake around stones and clumps of grass, rushing with a silent purpose. They are moving to join together in the low spots of the yard, filling the depressions in the earth. These pools are becoming mirrors, perfectly still, glass-like surfaces that catch the light. You look into one of these puddles, and you see the sky. You look up. The sky is so blue. It is not the pale, washed-out blue of winter. It is an impossible deep azure. It is a rich, saturated cobalt that stretches from one edge of the world to the other, an unbroken dome of color. Scan the heavens. Look directly above you. There isn't a single cloud to be seen, no wisps of white, no gray streaks, just that endless, open, terrifyingly beautiful blue. It feels vast. It feels deep enough to fall into. It is the kind of sky that makes you feel very small, a tiny speck on the face of a giant planet. But then, in the midst of this warmth, in the midst of this beauty, you stop. You stop walking. Your feet plant firmly in the soft mud. The smile that was resting easily on your face slowly fades, smoothing out into an expression of focus. You stand very, very still in the middle of the schoolyard, like a statue. The laughter of the children continues behind you, shouts of "tag" and the splash of boots, but suddenly, that sound feels distant. It sounds like it is coming from miles away, filtered through a thick pane of glass. It recedes into the background of your awareness, because your senses have picked up on something else. Something has changed. The vibration of the air has shifted. It is the animals. You slowly turn your head, looking away from the children and out toward the open pasture that borders the western edge of the schoolyard. The wire fence marks the line where the school grounds end and the wilder open grazing land begins. There is a small herd of cattle there. Usually, at this time of day, they would be heads down, grazing contentedly on the piles of dry hay thrown out by the neighboring farmer. You would usually see their tails swishing, hear the low rhythmic crunch of their chewing, see them moving slowly from pile to pile. But they are not grazing. They are standing perfectly, eerily still. They look like statues carved from dark stone, placed deliberately upon the prairie. You watch them, waiting for a movement, a twitch, a step, but there is nothing. Every single head is turned in the exact same direction, as if they are all obeying a silent command. Every nose is pointed toward the northwest. They are staring at the horizon. They are not looking at you, they are not looking at the hay, and they are not looking at each other. They are fixated on something you cannot yet see. They are not moving a muscle. Their flanks are still. Their tails hang straight down, motionless. Their ears are pinned back tight against their heads, as if they are listening to a frequency that human ears cannot catch. They are waiting. They are bracing. You pull your gaze away from the cattle and look for the birds. Only a few moments ago, the air was filled with life. Meadowlarks were singing their bubbling, cheerful songs from the fence posts. Sparrows were flitting between the dry stalks of grass. Now, the fence is empty. The rough wooden posts stand bare against the sky. You scan the air above the field. It is empty. There is not a single wing beating in the vast blue dome. No soaring hawks, no fluttering sparrows. It is as if the sky has been wiped clean of life. They have vanished. They have instinctively dived into the thickest brush, burrowing deep into the base of the haystacks, hiding themselves in the pockets of the earth. A new kind of silence begins to descend upon the schoolyard. It is not the peaceful, sleepy silence of the morning that you felt earlier. This is different. It is a heavy, thick silence. It has a weight to it. It presses against your eardrums, feeling dense and physical, like water. The wind, that warm, silk-like breeze that had been blowing gently from the south, suddenly dies. It doesn't fade away slowly, it simply stops. The flag on the white pole, which had been lazily unfurling, drops instantly. It hangs completely limp against the wood, dead still. Even the sound of the thaw changes. The rhythmic dripping from the roof seems to hesitate. It slows down, stretching out the time between each drop. Drip, drip. The air grows perfectly still. It becomes stagnant, motionless. It feels suddenly thinner in your lungs, sharper, as if the oxygen has been sucked out of the yard by a massive intake of breath. The world is holding its breath. The prairie is waiting. A sensation begins to manifest within you, subtle at first, then undeniable. A prickle of unease starts at the very base of your spine. It is not pain, it is a signal. It crawls slowly, vertebra by vertebra, up toward your neck, raising the fine hairs on your skin. It is a primal instinct, a whisper from your biology. It is something older than language, older than thought, older than the schoolhouse or the books inside it. It is the feeling of being watched. It is the feeling that the safety of the open space has suddenly evaporated. Very slowly, you turn your head. You follow the fixed, statuesque gaze of the cattle. You turn your eyes to the northwest. The horizon there is no longer a sharp, confident line where the blue sky meets the brown earth. The definition is gone. There is something else there. It begins as a smudge, a blurring of the world, as if someone has taken a thumb and smeared the ink of reality. It looks like a bruise forming on the delicate skin of the sky, a dark violet shadow spreading across the pale horizon. It is a deep, indigo haze that sits low against the earth, hugging the ground. It does not look like a typical rainstorm. It lacks the billowing, puffy shapes of thunderheads. It looks solid. It looks like a shadow that has detached itself from the night and stayed behind. But as you watch, you realize it is not stationary. It is growing. It is rising. It expands upward, a dark curtain being drawn up from the floor of the world. It moves with a terrifying, silent fluidity. The sounds of the schoolyard begin to recede. The laughter of the children, the splashing of the boots, the shout of a game, it all fades into the background of your mind, becoming white noise. Your entire world narrows down to that dark, expanding line in the distance. The warmth of the sun on your back, which felt so glorious just moments ago, suddenly feels like a lie. The heat feels deceptive. The rich, damp smell of the thawing earth no longer smells like spring. It suddenly smells like the scent of a trap that has been baited. Mechanically, you reach into your pocket. Your fingers close around your watch. The metal feels shockingly cold against your thumb, a stark contrast to the warm air. You pull it out, the chain clinking softly. You flip the casing open. The white face of the watch stares back at you. The black hands are precise, unhurried. They read 10:35. You look back at the horizon. In the seconds you looked down, the smudge has climbed higher. It is consuming the blue. It is eating the sky, swallowing the light. It rolls upward and outward, a wall of darkness erasing the world behind it. Deep in your chest, the heaviness turns into a knot of cold, quiet fear. The realization washes over you like cold water. The spring was a mask. The January thaw was a trick, a beautiful, cruel deception to lure the life out of hiding. And now the mask is about to slip. You are standing in the center of the schoolyard, your boots sinking into the soft, thawing mud. The sun is still warm on your shoulders, but the warmth has lost its comfort. It now feels like a memory, fading even as you experience it, ghost warmth that cannot reach you. Your hand is still gripping the pocket watch, your thumb unconsciously tracing the smooth, cold metal of the case over and over. 10:35 a.m. The world is holding its breath, and you are watching the end of the morning. The smudge on the horizon is no longer a smudge. In the few seconds you looked down at your watch and looked back up, it has mutated. It has evolved. What was a vague shadow has sharpened. It has grown teeth. You watch, mesmerized, as it rises up from the edge of the world. It is not rising like a cloud. It is rising like a living thing, a colossal, ancient leviathan surfacing from the crushing depths of a dark celestial ocean. It heaves itself upward, displacing the sky. It is a wall. It is a solid, unbroken vertical wall of cloud that stretches from the frozen earth up to the very top of the heavens. It towers over the prairie, blotting out the sun, blotting out the blue, eating the light. It is an absolute barrier, a curtain of finality that is being drawn across the stage of the world. And the color, it is a color you have never seen in nature before. It defies the palette of a winter day. It is not the soft gray of snow clouds. It is not the clean white of a blizzard. It is the color of a bruise, deep and painful. Look at the layers of it. At its heart, it is a deep, impenetrable indigo. Around the edges, it bleeds into a violent, throbbing purple. At the base, where it grinds against the earth, it is charcoal black, dense as soot. And at its leading edge, the crest of this wave, there is a sickly, churning green. It looks like the color of hail, the color of a tornado, a bioluminescent warning sign. The wall rolls and boils within itself. It is a chaotic, silent avalanche of vapor. Clouds tumble over clouds, folding inward, collapsing and rebuilding in a hypnotic display of raw energy. It churns like a cauldron, and it is moving. It is moving faster than anything so massive should ever move. It is moving faster than a galloping horse. It is moving faster than a train. You watch it devour the distant hills to the northwest. Fix your eyes on those brown slopes. One moment they're there, distinct, solid, familiar landmarks against the sky. The next moment, they're gone. They are simply erased. They are not just hidden, they are swallowed whole by the darkness. The wall sweeps over them, and they cease to exist in your visual field. It is coming for the prairie. It is coming for the schoolyard. It is coming for you. You try to take a breath, instinctively wanting to steady yourself, but the air has changed. The atmosphere you are breathing is no longer the same. The sweet, damp, loamy smell of the thaw, that scent of waking earth and pine resin, is gone. It has been scrubbed away in an instant. The air turns metallic. It tastes of iron on the back of your tongue. It tastes of ozone, sharp and electric. It tastes like sparks snapping from a wire. It tastes like crushed ice and pulverized stone. The pressure drops. It drops so rapidly, so violently, that you feel it physically. It is a physical blow. Your ears pop, a sharp, painful sensation deep in your head that makes you wince and swallow hard. The atmosphere feels like it is collapsing in on itself, a vacuum created by the approaching beast. And then, after the silence, after the visual terror, the sound arrives. It does not begin with the wind itself. It begins with the earth. It starts as a low, trembling vibration that rises up through the soles of your boots. You can feel the mud beneath you shivering. The timber of the schoolhouse porch begins to resonate, a subtle rattling of wood against wood. Then comes the hum. It is a deep, sub-bass frequency that you feel in your chest cavity more than you hear with your ears. It is the sound of displacement, of massive amounts of air being pushed forward violently. Then, the rumble. It sounds like a freight train. Imagine a locomotive, black iron and steam, pulling 1,000 tons of steel, roaring down a track that leads directly to where you stand. The sound is mechanical, grinding and overwhelming, but you know there are no tracks here. There are no trains for miles. The metaphor shifts. It sounds like a waterfall. It sounds like the entire Niagara River falling from the sky, a massive, white noise roar of crashing water. It gets louder and louder and louder. It fills the air, pressing against your eardrums, drowning out the sound of your own blood rushing in your veins. Roar. The sound finally rips through the silence of the morning, shattering the peace into a million invisible shards. It is the voice of the wind. It is a scream across the open plains, a raw, elemental howl that has traveled for hundreds of miles without a single tree or hill to stop it, gathering speed, gathering rage, until it collides with you. The trance breaks. The spell of the golden morning is shattered. You snap back into your body. The danger is not coming in the future tense. It is here, in the present tense. You fill your lungs with the strange, metallic air. You open your mouth. "Inside!" you shout. Your voice sounds thin. It sounds fragile, like a piece of paper tearing in a gale. The approaching roar swallows your words almost instantly. You try again, putting every ounce of your strength into the projection. "Get inside! Now! Leave the toys! Run!" The children stop. The motion in the yard freezes. They turn to look at you, their small faces flushed with the heat of the game, eyes wide with confusion. They don't understand yet. They are still in the warm, safe world of 5 seconds ago. They see your expression, the stark, naked terror you cannot hide, and the confusion turns to fear. Slowly, collectively, they turn to look behind them. They see the wall. It is towering over the schoolhouse now. It looms above the roofline, a terrifying vertical horizon. It looks like a tidal wave of solid ice, thousands of feet high, suspended in the air for a fraction of a second before the crash. The sun is swallowed. The golden light, the warmth, the promise of May, it vanishes in a blink. It is replaced instantly by a strange, flat, gray twilight. The world loses its color. The shadows disappear because the light has died. Panic breaks the stillness. "Run!" you scream again, waving your arms frantically toward the open door. "Go! Go!" They scatter like a flock of frightened birds startled from the grass. They drop their snowballs, which fall and crumble in the mud. They abandon their game of tag. They scramble toward the porch, their legs pumping. You watch their boots slipping. The mud, which was soft and squelching just moments ago, is changing texture. It is beginning to harden under their feet. And then the temperature crashes. It does not drop. It falls off a cliff. It is a physical violence against the senses. It happens in the space of 3 heartbeats. Heartbeat 1. The air is still 40 degrees above zero. It is wet and warm. Heartbeat 2. The wind hits. The sweat on your forehead flashes into ice. The dampness in your shirt freezes stiff. Heartbeat 3. The world turns into a freezer. The mercury plummets. It falls through 30, through 20, through 10, down to 0 and keeps falling. It plunges to 10 degrees below 0. In seconds, the air goes from a warm caress to a knife blade, flaying the heat from your skin, stealing the breath from your lungs, and turning the wet world instantly, shockingly, into stone. You feel the weather physically strike you. It is not a gradual change, it is an impact. It feels like being hit by a solid object, a wall of invisible force slanting into your chest and face. You stagger back a step, bracing yourself against the railing. The physical sensation is immediate and shocking. The sweat on your forehead, damp and glistening from the warm sun of moments ago, freezes instantly. In the blink of an eye, the moisture turns into a thin, tight layer of rime ice on your skin, tightening your brow, pulling at your temples. It feels like a cold iron mask has been clamped onto your face. Your shirt, damp with perspiration and the humidity of the thaw, stiffens. It ceases to be fabric and becomes a board. It freezes into hard, crinkly ridges that press uncomfortably against your chest and back, trapping the sudden chill against your skin. Look down at your feet. The puddles in the mud, which were liquid ripples reflecting the sky only seconds ago, undergo a violent transformation. They flash freeze. The water stops moving. It turns opaque and white, solidifying into jagged, sharp ruts of ice that crunch under your boots. The mud turns from soft clay into rock-hard earth, unforgiving and solid. The cold burns. It is a paradox of sensation. It is so cold, so absolute, so sudden that it registers to your nerves as extreme heat. It feels like fire. It sears your throat as you inhale, a dry, sharp pain that travels down your windpipe and grips your lungs. Every breath is a battle against the air itself. You force your legs to move. You run to the porch stairs, your boots skidding on the newly formed ice. You reach the top and grab the heavy wooden door. You throw it open and jam your body against it, holding it wide, turning yourself into a human shield against the wind to create a funnel for the children. "Hurry," you shout over the roar of the wind. "Sarah, move! Thomas, pick up your feet! Come on!" The children are rushing up the steps toward you. It is a chaotic scene of survival. They are stumbling, their feet slipping on the slick wood. They are crying out, short, sharp cries of confusion and pain as the cold hits them like a physical blow. They are defenseless. They are still dressed for the false spring. They are in their shirt sleeves, their thin cotton dresses, their light flannel shirts. These offer absolutely no protection against this sudden Arctic assault. The wind cuts right through the fabric as if it isn't even there. You watch them pass you, one by one. You see the shock etched onto their faces. You watch the color drain away. Their skin turns from the flushed pink of the game to a stark, ghostly pale, and then, terrifyingly fast, to a mottled blue. Their lips tremble uncontrollably. Their eyes are wide, filled with the sudden, primal realization that the world has turned against them. You move with instinct, your mind narrowing down to a single repetitive task. You grab them by the arms, your fingers digging into the thin fabric of their sleeves. You are not gentle. There is no time for gentleness. You are hauling them up the stairs, using your own body weight to pull them against the invisible current of the air. You shove them through the open doorway, pushing them into the dim, dusty safety of the schoolroom. 1, 2, 3, you count aloud. Your voice is shaking, vibrating with the adrenaline coursing through your veins. You are chanting the numbers like a prayer. The roar is absolutely deafening now. It is no longer a sound, it is an atmosphere. The freight train is not coming, it is on top of you. It is grinding the roof, shaking the foundation stones. The sky is gone. The horizon is gone. The world you knew 5 minutes ago is gone. There is only the white monster, a screaming void of swirling ice and air. 4, 5, 6. Another child passes you, then another. Suddenly, a little girl slips. The moisture on the porch planks has turned into a sheet of black ice in seconds. Her leather boots lose their grip, and she goes down hard, her knees hitting the wood. You lunge forward, your hand shooting out. You grab the back of her cotton dress, your knuckles grazing the freezing wood. You pull her up, hoisting her to her feet. You can see her mouth open, her face contorted in a scream of pain and terror. She is crying, screaming for help, but you cannot hear her. The wind steals the sound right out of her mouth, tearing it away before it can reach your ears. You push her firmly inside. 7, 8, and then the bombardment begins. The first crystals strike you. They are not snowflakes. They are not the soft, fluffy flakes of a Christmas Eve. They are shards of ice. They are microscopic needles, frozen hard and sharp. They are being driven by a 60-mile-an-hour wind, turning them into projectiles. They sting your face like buckshot. They scour your skin. You instinctively throw up your arm to shield your eyes, burying your face in your own sleeve to protect your vision. 9, 10, 11. You shove the 11th child inside. You look at the empty space on the porch. One more. Your heart hammers against your ribs. Where is the last one? You squint into the swirling gray chaos. The yard is disappearing before your eyes. The visibility has dropped from miles to yards and now to feet. 10 feet. 5 feet. The world is being erased by the whiteout. There. Through a break in the drift, you see a small dark shape near the fence line. A small figure. He is frozen in fear, glued to the spot, overwhelmed by the sudden violence of the change. You do not think. You do not weigh the odds. You simply act. You launch yourself off the porch. You leave the safety of the railing and run into the teeth of the storm. The wind hits you like a solid object. It feels like running into a wall of water. It tries to knock you down, to sweep your legs out from under you, to slide you backward across the ice. You fight it. You lower your head and drive your legs, forcing your way through the pressure. You reach him. You grab the boy's arm. His skin is ice cold to the touch, like he has been outside for hours instead of minutes. He is rigid. You yank him toward you, breaking his paralysis. You drag him back toward the stairs, your boots slipping, finding purchase, slipping again. Move, you yell, though the wind tears the word away instantly. Move! You scramble up the steps, your breath coming in ragged, frozen gasps. You reach the threshold. You throw him through the doorway, watching him slide across the floorboards to join the huddled pile of children. 12. They are all in. You grab the heavy iron handle of the door with both hands. You plant your feet. You pull. You try to pull it shut. But the wind has arrived. The wind is pressing against the wood with the weight of the entire sky. It pushes back. It fights you. It screams around the edges of the frame. The wind wants in. It wants the heat. It wants the life inside. You reach for the door, but the storm is faster. The wind catches the heavy oak edge like a sail. It rips the handle from your grip with terrifying force. The door swings backward, flying violently on its hinges, and slams against the exterior siding of the schoolhouse. Crack! The sound is explosive, sharp as a gunshot, ringing out over the roar of the gale. The wind is not just blowing anymore, it is fighting you. It feels like a living, malevolent force, an invisible giant pressing its shoulder against the wood, holding the door wide open. It wants in. It is hungry for the heat. It wants to devour the room. You plant your feet firmly on the wide pine floorboards. You lunge out again, grabbing the cold iron handle with both hands. Your fingers wrap around the metal, knuckles turning white. You lean back, dropping your center of gravity, putting the entire weight of your body into the pull. Your boots slide on the floor. The wood is slick with the melted snow that has blown in. You struggle for traction, your heels digging in, searching for a knot in the wood, a nail head, anything to anchor you. The wind screams. It is a high, vibrating shriek that fills the doorway. Snow is blasting into the room, a horizontal tunnel of white powder. It coats the tops of the desks in seconds. It hisses against the side of the unlit stove. It coats the floor, and it sprays over the children who are huddled together in the far corner, a shivering mass of frightened eyes. "Help me," you grit out through clenched teeth, the words vibrating in your jaw. But there is no one to help. You are the only barrier between the storm and the flock. You are alone in this struggle. You dig deep. You reach past the exhaustion, past the shock of the cold, finding a reserve of strength born of pure animal desperation. You tighten your core. You heave. Inch by inch, the door begins to move. It fights you for every millimeter. The wind howls in protest, the tone shifting from a roar to a whistle as the opening narrows. The iron hinges groan under the strain, a screech of metal on metal. Closer. You pull until your muscles burn, until the tendons in your arms feel like tight wires. The gap narrows. The white fury outside screams louder, a concentrated jet of air rushing through the remaining space, trying to force you back. Closer. You can feel the cold radiating off the wood of the door, searing your palms even through the iron handle. It is inches away. The white light of the storm is a blinding slip now. Slam! The door hits the frame. The heavy oak connects with the jamb, sealing the vacuum. Instantly, you fumble with the heavy wooden latch. Your fingers are clumsy with cold, but you force them to work. You jam the timber bar into place. You throw the iron bolt across, hearing the satisfying heavy thunk of metal locking into metal. And just like that, the world ends. The transition is absolute. The blinding white light is extinguished in a fraction of a second. The sun, the sky, the endless prairie, the storm, it is all gone. You are left in darkness. It is a sudden, heavy, velvety darkness. The roar of the wind is instantly muffled, turned from a scream into a dull, thrumming vibration against the walls. The air inside is still. The violence has been shut out. You stand there, chest heaving, leaning your forehead against the cold wood of the door, enveloped in the safety of the dark. The room is plunged into a heavy, suffocating darkness. It is pitch black, save for the faint, ghostly gray light that is struggling to filter through the glass windows. It is a weak, dying light, the color of old ash. But even that light is failing. Even the windows are disappearing. As you stand there, gasping for air, your chest heaving with the exertion of the struggle, you watch the transformation of the glass. The pane nearest you begins to change. Tick, tick, tick. Ice crystals, driven by the hurricane-force wind outside, are plastering themselves against the panes. They hit with such velocity that they fuse instantly to the glass. It happens in real time. You watch the corners of the window turn white. Frost ferns bloom and race across the surface, interlocking, layering, growing thicker and thicker with every passing second. The view of the yard, what little there was left of it, is gone. The gray light is choked off. The windows cease to be transparent portals to the outside world. They become solid, opaque sheets of white frost. They look like slabs of marble, glowing faintly from the fury on the other side. The realization settles over you, heavy and absolute. You are no longer in a schoolhouse on the open prairie. You are no longer connected to the earth or the sky. You are in a wooden box, a tiny, fragile capsule drifting in a white, frozen void. You are suspended in a purgatory of ice. The noise is incredible. It is a physical weight in the room. The building shudders around you. You can feel the vibration in the floorboards, traveling up through your legs. The walls groan. The heavy timber beams creak and complain under the assault, a low, moaning sound of wood under extreme stress. It feels as if a giant, invisible hand has reached down from the sky and grabbed the schoolhouse, shaking it violently, trying to tear it off its stone foundation and hurl it into the abyss. Listen to the roof. The wind buffets the shingles, pounding against them with rhythmic, heavy thuds. It sounds like heavy boots stomping overhead, a giant pacing back and forth looking for a way in. It sounds like the sky is falling in pieces. You slide down until you are sitting, leaning your back against the rough wood of the door. You press your spine against it, as if your weight alone can keep the storm at bay. Your heart is hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird, fluttering wild and fast. Thump, 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 thump. You can feel the pulse of it in your throat. You are shivering uncontrollably. It is a violent, rattling shiver that shakes your shoulders. It is not just from the cold that has invaded the room. It is the crash of adrenaline, the chemical shock of survival leaving your system. You force your eyes to adjust. You look out into the gloom of the room. Gradually, shapes emerge from the shadows. 12 pairs of eyes are looking back at you. The children have instinctively moved. They are huddled together in a tight, dense knot in the center of the room. They are pressed against the cold iron of the unlit pot-bellied stove, seeking a heat that isn't there, seeking the comfort of the metal. They are silent. There is no crying now. The shock is too deep for tears. They are trembling, a collective vibration that mirrors your own. They are wide-eyed, staring at you through the semi-darkness. They are looking at the teacher. They are looking at the adult. They are waiting. They are waiting for you to speak. They are waiting for you to tell them that the monster outside will go away. They are waiting for you to tell them it will be all right. You take a deep breath, holding it for a moment in your chest, and then slowly exhale. You push yourself away from the solid support of the door. Your legs feel heavy, stiff with the cold that has already seeped into the room. You look at your hands. They are trembling, a fine rhythmic shaking caused by the shock of the cold and the adrenaline still coursing through your veins. You force them to be still. You focus your will on your fingers, commanding them to steady. Slowly, deliberately, you reach into the deep pocket of your trousers. Your fingers brush against the rough lining, searching. You feel the small rectangular shape. You pull out a wooden matchbox. It feels impossibly light, a tiny object that holds the only potential for warmth in this frozen world. You slide the box open. You select a single match. You hold it between your thumb and forefinger, feeling the dry, rough wood. You strike it against the side of the box. The sound is sharp and loud in the quiet terror of the room. It is a harsh, abrasive scratch that cuts through the muffled roar of the wind. A tiny flame flares to life. It is a sudden, brilliant miracle. A single point of yellow warmth blooms in the blue, suffocating dark. You immediately cup your other hand around it, curving your palm to create a protective shield. You guard it as if it were the most precious diamond in the world, as if it were a tiny living soul that you must keep alive. You can feel the heat of it against your skin, a faint, focused intensity. The smell of sulfur, sharp and acrid, drifts up to your nose, a scent of civilization and fire. Moving carefully, protecting the flame with your body, you walk to the center of the room. A kerosene lamp hangs from the heavy ceiling beam, swaying slightly in the drafts that are already piercing the walls. You reach up. With your free hand, you carefully lift the glass chimney. The metal hinge squeaks softly. You bring the cupped match closer. You touch the tiny flame to the blackened wick. For a second, nothing happens. Then, the oil catches. A blue flame dances at the base, then turns yellow, then orange. You lower the glass chimney back into place with a soft click. The light grows, it expands, it pushes back the heavy, suffocating shadows, driving them into the corners of the room. It bathes the schoolhouse in a soft golden glow. It is a warm, amber light, the color of old honey. It touches the desks, the floorboards, the faces of the children. It makes the room feel, for a fleeting second, like a home again. You turn your gaze to the stove in the corner. It sits there, a massive cylinder of cast iron. It is cold. It is black. It radiates no heat, only a dull, metallic chill. It is a hungry mouth waiting to be fed. You look next to it. You look at the wood box. You walk over to it and peer inside. The bottom of the box is visible. There are 3 logs. That is all. 3 pieces of split oak, their bark rough and dark. You count them with your eyes, then again with your mind. 1, 2, 3. You calculate the burn time. An hour each, maybe less with the draft. 3 hours of heat. That is all you have. You lift your eyes to the windows. The panes are rattling violently in their frames, vibrating with the force of the assault outside. The white frost is thickening, glowing eerily with the diffused light of the blizzard. The storm is screaming to get in, and you have 3 logs to hold back the Arctic night. The trap has snapped shut. The blizzard has caught you, holding the schoolhouse in its white, freezing fist, and the long night has only just begun. You stand motionless in the center of the room, grounding yourself against the floorboards. Above your head, the kerosene lamp sways gently on its hook, moved by the invisible currents of air seeping through the walls. Watch the light. The golden glow washes over the room in waves. It bathes the scratched wooden tops of the desks, the dusty slate of the chalkboard, and the pale, terrified faces of the children in a rhythmic amber illumination. Because the lamp is moving, the shadows are moving too. They lengthen and shorten, swaying back and forth across the floor. It is a dizzying, hypnotic dance, a pendulum swinging in the dark. It mimics the rolling motion of a ship at sea, caught in a heavy swell. And truly, that is what this schoolhouse has become. It is no longer a building rooted to the earth. It feels unmoored. It is a small wooden vessel, a lifeboat adrift in a white frozen hurricane. The prairie has become an ocean of ice, and you are floating in the void. The noise outside is a constant physical weight pressing against the building. It does not rise and fall like a normal wind. There are no gusts, no pauses, no breaths. It is a continuous high-pitched scream. It is a single, unwavering note of pure fury held by the infinite lungs of the storm. It is a wall of sound. The walls of the schoolhouse vibrate with it. If you were to touch the plaster, you would feel it buzzing against your fingertips. You can feel the floorboards humming against the soles of your boots, a low-frequency tremor that travels up through your legs, vibrating in your bones. But you have work to do. You cannot freeze like the cattle in the field. Panic is a luxury you cannot afford. Fear is a visitor you cannot entertain. You push the fear down, locking it away in a quiet room in the back of your mind. You assume the mantle of the guardian. Slowly, deliberately, you move toward the corner of the room. Your boots make a hollow, heavy sound on the wood. You approach the stove. The massive cylinder of cast iron sits there, dormant and dark. You place your hand on the metal. It is cold to the touch. It feels like touching a block of ice painted black. It is a void in the corner of the room, sucking the warmth from the air. You kneel before it. The floor is hard and unyielding against your knees. You reach out and grasp the handle of the heavy iron door. You pull. Creak. It opens with a sound of rusted metal, a sound of domesticity that feels strangely, heartbreakingly out of place in this chaos. You smell the inside, the scent of old ash, of cold soot, of fires that burned on safer, warmer days. You turn your attention to the wood box next to the stove. You peer into the shadows of the crate. You reach in. Your hand closes around the rough, flaky bark of a split log. You run your thumb over the texture of the wood, feeling the dried resin, the ridges of the grain. You lift it out. It feels light. It feels terrifyingly light in your hand. You set it on the floor. You reach in again. You find a second log. You lift it out, feeling its weight, judging its density. You set it next to the first. You reach in a third time. Your fingers brush the bottom of the box. You find the last piece. You pull it out. You look into the box. It is empty. There is nothing left but dust and splinters. You look at the pile on the floor. 1, 2, 3. 3 logs. That is all. That is the sum total of your heat. That is the inventory of your survival against a temperature that is dropping toward 30 degrees below zero. You stare at the wood, doing the silent math of the night. You lean forward, peering into the dark, hollow belly of the stove. It is a cold cave, waiting for a spark. Carefully, with the reverence of a builder constructing a temple, you begin to arrange the wood. You place the first log at the bottom. You cross the second one over it at an angle. You lay the third one on top, creating a small pyramid, a structure designed to let the air breathe through the timber. You reach for the stack of papers on your desk. They are old arithmetic assignments, covered in the loops and scratches of children's handwriting. They are filled with problems about bushels of wheat and pecks of corn, abstract calculations of a harvest season that feels like it belongs to a different century. In this frozen world, those numbers are useless. Now, their only value is their flammability. You take a sheet. You crush it in your hand. Crinkle. Crunch. You ball it up tight. You take another and another, crumpling the dry paper into loose spheres. You stuff them beneath the structure of the wood, creating a bed of tinder. You reach for the matchbox again. You slide it open. You select one more match. You strike it. The sound is sharp, a tiny explosion of friction. The flame flares to life, bright and eager. You lower your hand into the mouth of the stove. You touch the flame to the corner of an arithmetic page. The smell of sulfur mixes immediately with the scent of burning paper, a sharp, acrid, dusty aroma that drifts up to your nose. It is the smell of the classroom, transformed. Watch the fire. The paper catches instantly. The edge of the sheet curls and blackens. A yellow flame licks upward, hungry and fluid. It dances over the balls of paper, growing taller, reaching up to taste the rough bark of the dry pine. For a moment, it hesitates. The flame flickers. It dips low, struggling against the cold, damp air in the chimney. Your heart stops. The beat of it suspends in your chest. You hold your breath, willing the fire to live, willing the physics of heat to work. Then, with a soft, satisfying whoosh, the resin in the pine catches. The flame anchors itself to the wood. The yellow turns to a deep, intense orange. The wood begins to crackle. A sharp pop, snap, crackle that sounds like music. You slowly close the heavy iron door. You latch it, but you reach down and slide the vents wide open, feeding the fire with the oxygen it craves. You listen. The fire begins to roar. It is not the high-pitched, chaotic scream of the wind outside. It is a deep, throaty, resonant sound. It is a bass note. It is a growl of defiance that fights back against the storm. And then the metal speaks. As the temperature rises inside the cast iron chamber, the stove begins to expand. Tick, tick, ping. The iron settles, groaning softly as it heats up. You stay kneeling there for a moment. A wave of radiant heat washes over your face. It touches your forehead, your nose, your chin. It flushes your cold, pale cheeks with color. It loosens the tightness in your jaw. It is the most beautiful feeling in the world, a physical caress of safety in a universe of ice. Slowly, reluctantly, you stand up. You turn away from the fire to face the room. You look at the children. They are still watching you, their eyes tracking your every move. "Come," you say. Your voice is steady. You pitch it low, finding a tone of calm authority that cuts through the noise of the wind without needing to shout. You are the captain of this ship, and you are taking the helm. "Everyone to the center," you instruct, gesturing toward the stove. "Bring your coats from the pile. Bring the blankets. We are going to make a camp right here." The children begin to move, but they are slow. The shock of the last few minutes hangs heavy on their limbs. They move sluggishly, like divers walking on the bottom of the ocean, fighting against the density of the air. Their movements are clumsy, their fingers stiff and uncooperative. You step in to help them. You guide them with gentle hands. You grab the heavy oak desks, one by one. You drag them across the floorboards. Scrape, thud. The sound echoes in the room. You pull them into a tight, protective circle around the heat of the stove. You are building a barricade. You are constructing a nest within the shell of the schoolhouse. You turn to the pile of abandoned winter gear near the door. You gather the coats, the heavy, scratchy wool coats that smell of wet sheep and lanolin. You gather the hand-stitched patchwork quilts, the thick knitted scarves. You bring them to the center of the circle. You lay them down on the hard wood floor, layering them thick to create insulation against the cold rising from below. You build a soft, chaotic fortress of fabric. "Sit close," you command gently, your voice cutting through the thrumming noise of the storm. Shoulder to shoulder, back to back, like sheep in a fold, no gaps.
They obey. They lower themselves onto the pile of coats. They huddle together, a tangled, shivering mass of limbs and frightened eyes. They press their bodies tight against one another, instinctively sharing their warmth, closing the spaces between them. You take the largest quilt, a heavy, faded red blanket, and you drape it over the entire group. You tuck the edges in around their boots, sealing them inside. You have created a bubble, a tent of shared warmth. Underneath the fabric, you can see their breath puffing out. It forms small, rhythmic white clouds that rise and mingle together, trapped within the sanctuary of the quilt. You step back. You stand outside the circle, a lone sentry patrolling the perimeter of your tiny kingdom. You turn your attention away from the light and look toward the edges of the room. The cold is not just waiting outside anymore, it is invading. It is no longer a passive element. It feels like a living, intelligent presence. It is a predator that seeks out every weakness, every flaw, every tiny opening in the schoolhouse's defenses. You walk slowly toward the north wall, the side of the building facing the teeth of the gale. You can feel the draft before you even reach the wall. It hits you from 5 feet away. It slices through the stagnant air of the room like a serrated knife blade, a focused, invisible ribbon of freezing air. You lean in closer. You look at the wallboards. The physics of the extreme cold are at work. The pine planks, shocked by the sudden drop in temperature, are contracting. They are shrinking, pulling away from each other. The seams between the boards are widening. You watch, mesmerized by the violence of it. Tiny jets of snow are blasting through the cracks. It is not falling snow. It is pulverized ice, fine as flour, sharp as glass. It sprays into the room under immense pressure. The particles catch the golden light of the kerosene lamp, dancing and swirling in the air like diamond dust. They spiral down and settle on the floorboards, forming miniature, perfect drifts against the baseboards. The blizzard is building itself inside the room. You turn your eyes back to the structure of the room, looking for signs of the enemy. You focus on the north wall, where the wind is hammering the hardest. Look closely at the nails.
Look at the rows of iron heads that hold the siding and the lath together. Usually they are dark, rusted spots against the wood, but now they have transformed. They have turned stark, ghostly white. The metal is conducting the cold from the outside with perfect efficiency. It is bleeding the heat out of the room. Frost is blooming on the heads of the nails, growing before your eyes. It is not just a coating, it is a structure. Intricate, crystalline flowers of ice are sprouting from the iron, spreading their delicate fern-like petals across the wood. They glisten in the lamplight. It is a sight of breathtaking geometric beauty, and yet it is deadly. It is the signature of the freeze, writing its name on the walls. You move to the window. You do not need to look out. You cannot look out. The glass is gone. It is not broken, but it has been erased from existence. It has been replaced by a thick, opaque slab of white ice on the inside of the frame. The window is no longer a portal to the world. It is part of the wall. You raise your hand. You place your palm an inch away from the pane, careful not to touch it. You pull your hand back instinctively. The cold radiating from the ice burns your skin. It radiates a profound, aching chill that seems to penetrate the meat of your hand and touch the bone. The window is acting like a block of dry ice. It is a massive heat sink, sucking the warmth out of the room, inhaling the precious energy your little stove is fighting so hard to create. You can almost feel the air currents circulating, the warm air rising, hitting the glass, dying, and falling back to the floor as a cold draft. You turn away. You go back to the stove, the heart of your defense. You kneel on the hard floor. You open the vents slightly to check the fire. You peer into the grate. The logs are burning well. In fact, they are burning too well. The draft from the storm is feeding them too much oxygen, acting like a bellows. The fire is bright, hungry, and aggressive. It is consuming the wood with a frightening, voracious speed. You reach into your pocket and pull out the watch again. The metal case is still cold. You flip it open. The hands point to 11:15 p.m. You stare at the face of the watch. An hour has passed since you lit the fire. You look back into the stove. The first log, the foundation of your pyramid, is already breaking apart. It is crumbling into a pile of glowing orange embers, its structural integrity gone. It is dying. You close the watch with a snap. You do the math in your head. It is a simple, terrifying equation. You have 3 logs total. The first is almost gone. That leaves 2. If they burn at this rate, even if you damper the stove down to a choke, even if you starve the fire just to keep the coals alive, that gives you 3 hours of heat. Maybe 4 if you are lucky. Maybe 4 if you are careful. That takes you to 2 a.m. You calculate the dawn. Sunrise is not until 7:30 in the morning. You stare at the dark gap in your mind. 2 o'clock to 7:30. 5 hours. 5 hours of gap. 5 hours where the stove will go cold. 5 hours where the fire will die and the iron will turn to ice. 5 hours where the temperature inside the schoolhouse will free fall to match the temperature outside. And outside, beyond the thin wooden walls, it is 30 degrees below zero. You turn your gaze back to the center of the room, looking down at the children huddled within the fortress of coats. They have changed. They have stopped shivering. The violent tremors that shook their small frames have subsided. The warmth of the fire, combined with the intense shared body heat of their close proximity, has lulled them into a trance. The terror has exhausted them, and the heat has sedated them. Some are nodding off, their eyelids heavy and fluttering. You watch a head tip slowly to the side, resting gently on a neighbor's shoulder. You watch a hand relax its grip on a blanket. They are breathing in unison, a slow, rhythmic rising and falling of the quilt that looks like the breathing of a single large creature. They are safe for now, but you know the math. You know the timeline. You look away from them and scan the rest of the room. You look at the objects that have defined your life as a teacher for the last 3 years. You look at the rows of empty desks, their surfaces polished by elbows and books. You look at the wooden chairs standing in silent rows. You look at the bookshelf in the corner, holding the weight of history and geography. You look at the long wooden pointer resting against the blackboard. In the amber light of the lantern, your perception shifts. The world rearranges itself in your mind. They are no longer furniture. They are no longer tools of education. They are no longer objects of order and civilization. They are fuel. They are simply trees that have been given a shape. They are stored sunlight trapped in grain and fiber, waiting to be released. They are calories of heat disguised as wood. Slowly, you walk to your desk at the front of the room. It is a heavy, majestic piece of oak, brought all the way from St. Paul by a covered wagon years ago. You move behind it. You reach out and touch the back of your chair.
It is a sturdy chair. It has a high, curved back and beautifully turned legs. You run your hand over the smooth, varnished wood. You know the feel of this chair. You have sat in it every morning at 8 a.m. You have graded papers in it until the sun went down. It has been your throne, your place of rest, your constant companion in this solitude. You grip the top rail. You lift it. It is heavy. It is solid oak, dense and substantial. It feels significant in your hands. You carry it, holding it with both hands, walking slowly to the center of the room, near the stove. The children who are still awake watch you. Their eyes slide over to you, tracking your movement, confused but too tired to ask questions. You stand there for a moment, holding the chair. You are holding a piece of the schoolhouse, a piece of your normal life, and you are about to end it. You take a deep, steadying breath, filling your lungs with the warm air. You raise the chair high above your head. You hold it there, suspended in the golden light, a silhouette against the shadows. And then you bring it down. The sound is shocking in the small, enclosed room. It is a sharp, violent retort, like a dry bone breaking or a gunshot. It echoes off the walls, louder than the wind, louder than the fire. The chair smashes against the hard floorboards. The structure gives way. A turned leg flies off, skittering across the floor. The back splits down the middle, exposing the pale, raw wood inside the varnish. The joinery fails. The chair lies in pieces, a ruin of splinters and timber. The children flinch. The spell of the warmth is momentarily broken. They jump, their eyes widening. One of the younger girls, startled from a half-sleep, starts to whimper, a high, thin sound of distress. You kneel down immediately, lowering yourself to their level. You reach out a hand, hovering it near the quilt, a gesture of calm. "It's all right," you say. Your voice is soft, low, and soothing. It is a melody of reassurance. "It's all right. Don't be afraid. It isn't a chair anymore. It's just wood. It's just heat. It is going to keep us warm." You kneel among the ruins of your chair. You reach down and pick up the shattered pieces, the jagged lengths of oak, the curved fragments of the backrest. They feel heavy and dense, charged with potential energy. You open the iron door of the stove. The heat blasts out, hitting your face, but it feels good. It feels like life. The fire inside is hungry.
It is a living creature in a cage, prowling the grate, waiting to be fed. It welcomes the offering. You feed the turned leg of the chair into the maw. You watch it land on the bed of glowing pine coals. The reaction is immediate. The varnish on the wood, layers of old shellac applied years ago, bubbles and blisters instantly. It turns into a frothy, boiling black skin on the surface of the oak. A new smell fills the room, cutting through the scent of wood smoke. It is sharp, chemical, and sweet. It is the acrid smell of burning lacquer and treated lumber, a scent that speaks of destruction rather than comfort. The flames leap up, changing character. They shift from the soft orange of the pine to a bright, intense chemical blue. They wrap around the oak, devouring the finish, digging into the grain. The heat surges, radiating outward in a fresh wave. You sit down on the floor, pressing your back against the rough wood of the empty fuel box. You settle in for your vigil. You feed the fire piece by piece. You do not rush. You are rationing the minutes. You toss in a spindle. You watch it catch. You toss in a seat slat. You watch it curl. You toss in a cross brace. Time begins to lose its meaning. The storm outside creates a void where hours dissolve into a gray, roaring static. There is no sunrise, no sunset, only the golden bubble of the lamp and the black iron of the stove. Existence simplifies down to the rhythm of the feed. Open the door, feed the wood, close the door, listen to the roar. Your watch marks the stations of the night. 1:00 a.m. The chair is gone. The last piece of the backrest has crumbled into ash. 2:00 a.m. The last of the original pine logs breaks apart, its structure collapsing into a pile of glowing red dust. You are now surviving entirely on furniture. You look away from the fire to the perimeter of the room. The cold is encroaching. It is fighting back. The frost on the floor has advanced like a slow-moving white tide. It is now a thick, crystalline carpet extending 3 feet from the walls, inching toward the center circle. Suddenly, a loud pop echoes from the corner near the door. It sounds like a pistol shot. You look over. The water bucket. The water inside has frozen solid. The ice expanded with such irresistible force that it split the wooden staves of the pail, bursting the metal hoops. A jagged shard of ice sticks out of the top. The cold is breaking the tools of your life. You look at the desks. They are the next line of defense, but they are not free. They are heavy oak units bolted firmly to the floor runners to keep them in straight rows. They are anchored to the building. You stand up, your joints stiff and aching. You walk to your desk drawer. You fumble inside until your fingers brush the cold metal handle of a screwdriver. You pull it out. You move to the first student desk in the row. You kneel on the floor. Your hands are clumsy. The cold has seeped into your extremities, making your fingers feel like thick, unresponsive sausages. You can barely feel the handle of the tool. You have to watch your hands to make sure they are doing what you tell them to do. You fit the tip of the screwdriver into the head of the first screw. It is rusted tight. You grip the handle with both hands. You grit your teeth. You twist. It resists. It fights you. Then, with a screech of metal, it gives. You turn it again and again, laboring over every rotation. One by one, you work the screws loose. You are dismantling the schoolhouse, screw by screw, to keep the dark away. You drag the heavy oak desk across the floor. The metal legs screech against the wood, a high protesting sound that grates on your nerves. You pull it all the way to the iron hearth of the stove. You cannot break this with your hands. It is too thick, too well made. It was built to last 100 years, not to be consumed in an hour. You reach for the heavy iron poker leaning against the wall. You grip the cold metal handle. You take a breath, steadying your stance on the slick floor. You swing. Clang. The impact vibrates up your arms, shaking your shoulders. You swing again and again. You smash the wood, splintering the joinery, cracking the solid top. It is hard, brutal work. You are sweating under your heavy layers of wool and cotton, but the sweat does not feel hot. It feels clammy and dangerous. As soon as it touches the air, it chills, sticking to your skin like a cold, wet sheet. You feed the wreckage into the fire. You burn the desk. You burn the teacher's podium, watching the slanted top turn to charcoal. You burn the long wooden pointer, snapping it over your knee like a dry twig. You check the watch. 3:30 a.m. The night is dragging its feet. The room is growing dimmer. The kerosene in the lamp overhead is running low. The flame is starving. It flickers and dances, casting long, erratic shadows that stretch and warp across the walls. The shadows seem to reach out for you, grasping fingers of darkness, trying to snuff out the light. You turn back to the wood box. It is empty. You look at the debris on the floor. It is gone. You are running out of wood. Slowly, you turn your head toward the corner of the room. You look at the bookshelf. It is a modest shelf holding the school's entire small library. These are the treasures of the district. There are the McGuffey readers, their spines worn soft by hundreds of small hands. There are the geographies, filled with the wonders of the wider world. There are the arithmetics. And there, standing tall and dignified, is a heavy, leather-bound history of the United States. You walk over to the shelf. You reach out and touch the spines, running your fingertips over the embossed titles. These books are precious. They cost money the district does not have. They were shipped from the East at great expense. They are the vessels of knowledge, the only connection these children have to the world beyond the prairie. To destroy them feels like a violation. It feels like a sin against the mind. But then you turn. You look at the floor. You look at the children. They are asleep now, a pile of innocent breathing forms huddled under the quilts. You watch the gentle rise and fall of their chests. You listen to the soft rhythm of their breathing, a counter-rhythm to the howling wind. Their lives are the only story that matters tonight. The past in the books is dead. The children are the living future. You make your choice. You take the books. You scoop them up in armloads, feeling their weight against your chest. You carry them to the stove and pile them next to the iron feet. You pick up a geography book. You open the cover. You look at the pages. There are maps of the world. You see the blue of oceans you have never seen and will likely never see. You see the green of the Amazon jungle. You see the yellow of the African deserts. You see the equator. You grip the page. Rip. The sound of the tearing paper is loud and dry in the quiet room. It sounds like a bandage being pulled away. Rip. Rip. You tear out the tropics. You tear out the equator. You crumple the pages into tight balls and toss them into the stove. They flare up fast, a sudden, brilliant flash of brightness that illuminates the room for a second before dying down. Paper burns hot, but it burns fast. You realize you have to keep feeding them constantly. It is a relentless, hungry task. You pick up the history book. It is heavy, bound in thick, dark leather. It smells of old glue and time. You open it to the beginning. You look at the founding of the nation. You see the names of the founders. You grip the page.
You tear out the Constitution. You tear out the Declaration. You tear out the Civil War, the battles, the generals, the dates of victory and defeat. You feed the history of the country to the fire. You watch the ink curl and vanish. You watch the years turn into smoke. You are burning the past to buy a few more degrees of warmth for the present. Watch the paper inside the stove. Watch the ink curl away from the heat. Watch the words, the names of presidents, the dates of battles, the borders of empires turn to black carbon. Watch them crumble into delicate gray ash, then vanish into nothingness, carried up the chimney as smoke. The history of the past burns to preserve the future of these children. There is a strange, poetic, brutal justice in it. The fire does not care about dates. It does not care about geography. It cares only about carbon. It cares only about the energy stored in the page. The smell of the room changes. The scent of binding glue, melted and scorching, mixes with the smell of old, yellowed paper. It is a library scent, usually cool and dry, but now it is hot and toasted. It fills the air, heavy and thick. You sit there on the floor, your legs crossed, your back aching. You fall into the rhythm. Tear, feed, tear, feed. The motion becomes hypnotic. It becomes automatic. A muscle memory that bypasses your conscious mind. Your eyelids feel incredibly heavy, as if lead weights have been tied to your lashes. The heat radiating from the open stove door washes over your face, a warm, narcotic wave that lulls you toward sleep. Listen to the storm. The roar outside seems to shift its pitch. It is no longer a scream. It is deepened into a drone. It is a low, endless vibration that rattles your teeth in your skull. It sounds like a great prehistoric beast prowling the perimeter of the building. You can almost hear it sliding its claws against the clapboard siding, testing the strength of the windows, sniffing at the cracks, looking for a way in. "Let me in," the wind whispers through the gaps in the walls. "It is warm in there. Let me in. Let me sleep." "No," you whisper back, your voice a dry rasp in your throat. "Not tonight. You cannot have them." You reach for another book. You tear the pages. You feed the fire. You begin to hum. It is a low, tuneless melody vibrating in your chest. You don't even know what song it is. It might be a hymn. It might be a lullaby. It is just a sound to fill the silence, a human vibration to prove that you are still here, still awake, still guarding the date against the monster. You lower your gaze to the floor. The frost has advanced. It has reached the legs of the first row of desks. The iron nail heads on the floorboards are now stark white buttons of ice. The air near the floor is freezing. You can actually see a distinct layer of cold air hanging like a low fog, hovering just inches above the planks. But look at the center. In the circle of the desks, in the fortress of wool and quilts, it is warm. The children are breathing deeply, rhythmically. Their chests rise and fall in unison. They are lost in dreams. They are safe. You realize what you are. You are the keeper of the flame. You are the lighthouse keeper on a rocky shore, tending the only light in a universe of dark water. As long as you are awake, as long as your hand can tear a page and feed the maw, the darkness cannot win. Suddenly, the light changes. The kerosene lamp overhead flickers. It sputters, a wet, gasping sound. And then, it dies. The room plunges into darkness. The golden light is gone. Now, the room is lit only by the red and orange glow of the open stove door. It feels intimate now,
The world has shrunk down to a radius of 3 feet. It is just you and the fire. The shadows are gone because the light to cast them is gone. There is only the red mouth of the stove, eating the words, eating the wood, breathing out the heat. You pull your heavy coat tighter around your shoulders. You draw your knees up to your chest, curling into a ball to conserve your own heat. You rest your heavy chin on your knees. You watch the embers pulse, glow, dim, glow, dim. It looks like a slow, steady heartbeat. It is the heartbeat of the room. You are tired. You are so tired. Your bones ache with exhaustion, but you will not sleep. You cannot sleep. You reach out blindly in the red light. Your hand finds a reader. You open it. You tear a page. You feed the fire. One more page. One more minute. One more hour. The night is long, but the fire is still burning. You are drifting now. The boundary between waking and sleeping has blurred into a gray haze. For hours, or is it days, you have existed in this rhythm. Rip, feed, watch. Your hands are black with ink and soot. Your eyes are dry and stinging. The pile of books is gone. The chairs are gone. The last thing you fed to the fire was the wooden frame of a slate board. You are drifting. Drifting. But you are still here. And the children are still warm. But now, something has shifted in the fabric of the world. Slowly, you lift your head from your knees. Your neck is stiff, your body heavy. You listen. The sound, the screaming has finally stopped. The constant, deafening roar that has battered the schoolhouse for 12 straight hours, that freight train vibration that shook your very bones, is gone. The wind has not just died down, it has vanished completely. The silence that replaces it is absolute. It is heavy, profound, and ringing. It presses against your ears, louder in its own way than the noise ever was. It is the silence of a cathedral, vast and empty. You blink your dry, gritty eyes, trying to clear your vision. The room is intensely cold. The fire in the stove has burned down to a bed of deep, pulsing red coals, glowing faintly under a thick layer of white ash. But look around. It is not dark anymore. You look at the windows. The ice is still there, thick and opaque, coating the glass on the inside like armor. But it is glowing. A strange, ethereal, pale blue light is filtering through the frost. It is luminous. It is not the warm yellow light of a lamp, nor the dull gray light of a storm. It is the color of a diamond held up to the sky.
It is morning. You try to stand. Your legs are stiff, your muscles cramped and protesting from hours of huddling on the hard floor. You stumble slightly, your boots heavy, catching yourself on the edge of a desk. Your breath puffs out in a large, distinct white cloud before your face. It hangs there in the still air. It is freezing in here now, perhaps only 10 or 20 degrees above zero, but you are breathing. You are alive. You look at the pile of quilts in the center of the room. It is a still, colorful mound. Then, a small movement, a shifting of wool, a muffled cough. They are sleeping. They are warm. You walk to the door. Your boots crunch on the frost that now covers the entire floor, wall to wall. It sounds like walking on sugar. You reach for the heavy iron latch. You lift it. It doesn't move. You try again, pushing harder. The metal is frozen solid. The ice has welded the door to the frame, sealing the cracks, turning the schoolhouse into a sealed tomb. Panic flares for a second, hot and sharp in your chest. Are we buried? Did the snow cover the roof? Is there enough air?
You grit your teeth. You place your shoulder against the rough wood of the door. You plant your feet on the slick floor, and you shove. Open, you whisper, a command to the ice. You throw your entire weight against it. Once, twice, crack. The sound is explosive like a pistol shot ringing out in the silence. The ice seal shatters, shards falling to the floor. The door groans on its hinges and swings outward. You stumble forward, bracing yourself instinctively for the wind, for the stinging needles of ice to assault your face. But there is no wind. You stop. You blink against the light. You forget to breathe. The world you knew yesterday, the brown grass, the mud, the gray sky, the cattle, has been erased. It has been wiped clean. In its place is a landscape from another planet. White. Everything is white. The prairie has become a frozen ocean of marble. Massive drifts 10 feet high, carved into smooth, sweeping curves by the wind, stretch out to the horizon. They look like waves frozen in time. They glitter and sparkle with a million tiny points of light under a sun that is so bright, so fierce, it hurts to look at it. The sky is a deep, piercing azure blue. Not a single cloud remains. It is a dome of infinite clarity, stretching forever. You step out onto the porch. The snow has drifted up to the level of the floorboards. You tentatively step onto the drift. It holds you. The wind packed it so tight, hammered it with such force that it is as hard as concrete. You walk out over the top of the fence, which is buried completely beneath your feet. The air hits your face. It is sharp. It is clean. It smells of absolutely nothing. Just pure frozen ozone and cold sunshine. It burns your nose, but it wakes you up like a slap. It tastes like victory. You turn in a slow circle, marveling at the transformation. The schoolhouse is half buried, a wooden island floating in this white sea. Icicles 6 feet long hang from the eaves, glittering like crystal spears in the morning light. You look to the horizon. It is a straight, white line cutting against the blue. It is beautiful. It is terrifyingly, perfectly beautiful. You turn back to the open door of the schoolhouse. A movement catches your eye inside. A small head pops up from the pile of blankets, then another, then another. 12 faces, tousled hair, sleepy eyes, cheeks pink with the warmth of the nest. They look at you, silhouetted against the snow. You look at them. You don't need to speak. The count is the same. 1 to 12. You lean against the doorframe, your legs suddenly weak with relief. A tremor runs through your hands, but it is not from the cold this time. You did it. You held back the night. You kept the fire. You steered the ship through the hurricane and brought it safe to harbor. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the freezing, life-giving air. The storm is over. The sun has returned. And here, in this tiny wooden box on the edge of the world, life begins again. Close your eyes now. Let the brightness of the sun fade behind your eyelids, leaving a gentle, warm afterglow. Let the memory of the warmth stay with you. Recall the smell of the pine smoke, rich and comforting. Recall the sound of the rhythmic breathing of the children. Recall the heavy, protective weight of the quilt. The fire is banking down. The room is safe. The long watch is ended. You can let go now. There is nothing more you need to do. The storm has passed. Sleep. Good night.